Hi there. Welcome to the PhD Journey Unplugged Podcast. I'm Dr. Sarah Gordon. This is a platform where we talk about health and human performance. I love to have guests on my show who I call resilience warriors. They teach us how to live our best lives. They teach us through the long game of human performance how to put good things in our lives as we go after obstacles and or get through obstacles and go work towards goals and work towards things in our lives that challenge us to be the best versions of ourselves. So today I am really excited. I have Christina Candio on the show. Welcome to the show, Christina.
Oh, thanks so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
We spoke like about 2 months ago and
Yeah.
scheduled this for today, and we had such a great connection. It was a great conversation, and I'm really excited to bring kind of your wisdom and your knowledge in terms of human performance, in terms of the your background from sports psychology and the mental aspect, the mental performance aspect. And truthfully, like we focus on sport, but the things that we talk about on this platform are really applicable to everybody in life, to generalize them, outside of even the sports arena. So I'm really excited to
Yeah,
have this
totally.
conversation and learn from you today.
Me too. I'm excited to learn from you.
Oh gosh. Well, thank you.
No pressure. No
So,
pressure.
so tell me first, let's just start. I want to introduce, like, give your background and talk about your platform, but where are you? Where are you joining us from?
I am in a small town in Pennsylvania called Macungie. It is right outside of Allentown in the Lehigh Valley area. It's about an hour outside of the Philly area.
Okay. Um, so we're not too far because I'm in Delaware.
Oh yeah, okay.
Yeah. I will mention I have my dogs in here with me today, and there's one, she's drinking a lot of water in the background. So we'll have to see if you hear, listeners, if you hear some strange noise, that's Macy behind me today. She's joining me today. Okay. So let's talk about why you're on the show and why I wanted to have you on the show. First of all, when I looked at your background, I really appreciate the fact that you have a Master's of Arts in sports psychology. I thought that that was a really interesting kind of background to have to bring to our conversation today about human performance.
Yeah, cool.
So that was really interesting to me. You also have a Master's of Science in Healthcare Administration.
I
You have
do.
two master's degrees.
I do. I'm a little bit of a nerd. I love learning. So yeah, I would go back to school for my PhD if I had a good long minute to think about it.
Let's talk offline. I think you should
Okay,
go
that
for
sounds
it.
great.
I think you should go for it because you learn beyond just the degree, you learn so much in that journey. It's why this podcast exists.
Yeah, fair enough.
Why
Yeah.
we're here together because you
Yeah.
learn so much about life and performance. And yeah, that would be awesome. You also have a Bachelor's of Arts in English.
Yes.
Christina is a triathlon coach with USA Triathlon, level one certification,
Yep.
master swimming coach,
Yep.
mindful sport performance enhancement instructor, the MSPE. What is
Yeah.
that?
So it's you don't need to have a sports psychology background certification degree to go for it, but it is a really great complement to my sports psychology training. It is more focused on the mindful aspect of things, which is more meditative. It's more feeling your way through your body. It's using visualization. So more of the sports psychology or the mental performance techniques that are considered like mindfulness. So that's kind of the sub little genre there.
I would like to talk about that a little bit when we get into our conversation,
Sure.
in terms of how do you learn to do that? How do you practice that? How do you,
Yeah.
what does that look like? Because I think that those are good tools to have just for stress in life and just for life in general and for performance, for, even getting through a PhD program,
Yeah,
using
absolutely.
visualization. I remember, and there's a difference between mental imagery and visualization.
Correct.
So,
Yes.
okay, we'll touch on that. Um, Ironman University certified coach,
Yep, that's right.
safe sport trained.
Yes.
That.
So Safe Sport is a governing body that ensures the safety of the athletes, um, based on the education, and wherewithal of coaches. It could be parents, it could be teachers, it could be athletic trainers. Some certification programs require that you be sports safe trained.
Hmm.
So you're really looking to support the athlete and be on the lookout for some gotchas, whether there is some harassment or any type of inappropriate behavior that you are seeing within your athlete community or within like a coaching staff. So it's putting more of a mindful eye in terms of protecting the athlete.
That's cool. I had never heard of that. So that's interesting. Huh. Is there a special focus that's what certain levels, like the collegiate
Um,
level?
Collegiate, I believe it is a requirement. USA Triathlon does require it for all of their coaches. So I imagine that the other USA governed sport bodies also make that a requirement. But yes, it was a requirement for my USAT training.
Cool. That's interesting. I learn so much every time I have guests on the show. You're also a running coach through Road Runners Club of America,
Yes.
yoga.
Yes.
I'm not trying to embarrass you, but I mean, we have these conversations. I want our listeners to understand that these are highly qualified individuals to teach us and to have these conversations with. So, Ashtanga.
Yes, that's correct. It's a particular style of yoga that I practiced in the early 2000s, and that was the type of certification teacher training program I went through. So there's so many different styles of yoga, and that was just one particular niche that I was drawn to that I went after certification for.
That's so cool. So that's an impressive academic and kind of professional, certifications. But now let's talk about your athletic
Okay.
background. Seven-time marathon finisher.
Now it's 8.
Now it's eight,
Yes.
which is what did you just add to it?
I just did the Gettysburg Marathon on Sunday.
You look rested. How's that possible?
Thanks. Well, it's been a journey, and yeah, it's been a journey. We'll get there.
Let's
We'll get
talk
there.
about that,
Yeah,
okay?
I feel good.
Okay. And then six-time Ironman 70.3 finisher.
Yes, maybe 7. I can't remember.
Okay. And then four-time ultra run distance finisher, the 50K and the 50-mile
Yes,
distances.
yes.
So definitely a lot of experience in terms of endurance, ultra endurance.
And I would be kind of putting myself on a back shelf if I also didn't mention that I have done a full Ironman distance as well. So that I did in 2023.
That's amazing. Which one did you do?
I did Ironman Mont Tremblant. It is in
Wow.
Canada, and that was actually the last year they offered that full distance. The half is still alive and well, but they did eliminate the full distance.
It's impressive.
Thanks.
I don't want to put you on the spot, but I guess you could say what age range you compete in.
I will be 48 this year.
Okay. It's amazing.
So, yeah, and depending on the race, the age groups are between, 5 years or 10 years. So, yeah, depending on what race I'm doing, I'm either competing in a 5-year age range, which is great because it's a smaller field, depending on the
Hmm.
size of the race, or it's a 10-year swing. And, it's rich with a lot of amazing, amazing athletes.
Hmm. Yeah, I've met a lot through this platform and through my dissertation work, and it's so inspiring. So the other kind of detail that I was drawn to was actually the name of your business.
Oh, yes, yes.
Okay, so Christina is the founder of a platform called ENFLYTE, and it's ENFLYTE.
Correct. Yes.
And so when I saw it, and I want to talk about that a bit, I was thinking of the analogy to in flight. And I hadn't said that, I hadn't mentioned that to you, except in an
Yeah,
email just recently,
that's right.
right? I said, oh, wow, this really reminds me of like all the metaphors of flying and taking flight. And so you shared with me, well, I'll let you share with our listeners. Tell me why end flight? Where did that come from?
So I have always been kind of drawn to birds. And I'm not entirely sure why. I never really gave it a whole heck of a lot of thought because the irony is I do not like flying. I do not like airplanes.
Okay.
I do not fare well on roller coasters. I need to literally be grounded on the earth with, typically 2 feet at almost all times. But I really appreciate the beauty and whimsy and just the mechanics of them being able to hold speed at such a just a high space in the atmosphere. Um, the colors are beautiful, and I, oddly enough, did my undergrad thesis on the imagery of birds in a
Mm.
particular author's poems. So I really dug into just all of this really like great imagery. And I, from time to time, would use the words like, oh, let's fly in terms of any racing that I would wind up doing, because I started out being more of a runner than anything. And I just really loved being light and trying to take flight, like all of those things just were words or mantras that would come up from time to time to, give me a little bit of a literal and figurative boost. And so when I was going out on my own from a coaching business standpoint, I wanted to have, of course, a business name that connects to me, and as anybody would wind up doing. And I kind of thought, oh, like how can I weave birds into this? And N flight came into play. I also thought of in flight and I thought of an in-flight beverage service. So my role isn't to do all the things for the athlete. My role is to support them and keep them comfortable on whatever destination they're traveling to. And
Like that.
in flight might not have made sense, but because I'm coming from a place of endurance sports, I decided that instead of it being in flight, it would be N flight. So the N in endurance was going to pair with flight. Um, and at
Amazing. So
first
creative, but meaningful.
it it's so meaningful. And it didn't seem to really land with me all that well in the early stages, but I think that's just, I don't know, that's just maybe the part of the process. And now it's grown to be obviously part of my like daily vernacular. And I see like my own sticker or my gear, or I see another athlete like wearing my logo, which is amazing. And my husband, we got married in 2020. What year is it? I'm gonna in 2024. And he is also a coach along with me. He has similar athletes that he winds up coaching in terms of, run and triathlon, but he is very data driven. So we partner really well. We have our own in-flight type of support services, if you will. So yeah, I'm happy to add another person to the team to help keep this all up in the air, so to speak.
I love that. That it's amazing. And I did a little bit of like, okay, let's put in the parallels for end flight and in flight and it just helping people. let me think for a second. Helping people take flight
Yes.
towards some goal. And like you said, you're not going to fly for them. You're giving
Yes.
them the wings to fly on their own. You're giving them the confidence to fly on their own.
I I am, and sometimes that can be challenging because sometimes I want to be the pilot. I think that's natural, whether you're a parent or a caregiver, like
Hmm.
you want to do the thing for them.
Hmm.
But also from a like a learned standpoint as well as an academic standpoint, I know that whomever it is I'm working with is not going to be fully confident and competent and bought into it and believe in themselves if I do it for them. They have
That's
to do
great.
it for themselves. So it can be a challenging lesson from time to time, both for me as well as the athlete. And I will always say, I shined the flashlight for you. Wherever you want to go, I might say, great idea. Here are a couple of things to think about. Let me shine the flashlight. Or have you thought about this? And perhaps they change direction, or they just say, I'm going to stick with what I want to do, and I have to meet them where they're at. Not where they want to go and not where I think they should be or where I think they should go.
I was just thinking of a question as you're speaking, because I've had a lot of coaches on the show. Is it hard for a coach to watch your athletes fumble because you do want to like them to be successful? Like sometimes you do have to probably watch people struggle to get stronger
Yes.
mentally and physically. So I'm just curious from a coach's perspective, what does that feel like? And then how do you help people move through that? And,
Oh, that's a packed question.
right? Because I just thought about that. Like as a
It is.
coach, it's hard because you're so invested in it. You care so deeply for the people that you're working with. I know I see it and I feel it from all of the coaches that I have the opportunity to speak with. So it's got to
Yeah,
be hard on your end too.
it it is hard, and I think what maybe I don't appreciate enough until I honestly sit and think about it is that those situations are also like learning opportunities for me. Like I'm learning how to determine, do I need to, in this moment, sit on the bleachers and just observe and have them work through things? Or do I need to offer a little hint or a clue or give some sort of acknowledgement or accolade or advice? And I think some of that comes with just knowing what to do when, comes with the relationship that you build with the athlete. And it also comes from kind of being able to determine, is the athlete doing something dangerous?
Mm,
Or is this something that we can let go for now and then debrief later?
that takes experience, I think.
And it does take experience. And I'll also say, and this goes for whatever you're doing and whatever role you're playing in life, is if you have a great connection to your physical body, you will feel an emotion bubble up that helps give you the clue of what you need to do.
Ooh,
Um,
that's a big statement. That's the first time I've actually heard it said that way. I like that. Can you say that again? Not to put you, can we try to say it again? If you have if you're in tune, let me try and see if I've got it
yes.
right.
Okay. Yeah, I
If
love
you're
this.
in tune with your body, some emotion will well up that'll
Yes.
give you like the feedback that you need to know whether to push forward or to pull back.
Yes. And
That's cool.
it's great
Like a
information.
sports psychology type of a.
Yeah. It's great information. And then you, as just the person, I think based on your experience and your general wisdom, then takes that information and makes a next step. So
Informed
you have to do
decision.
something with it. And I'll use a different example. So I work with a lot of different athletes from an anxiety standpoint. So
Oh,
there are a lot of athletes in the triathlon world who are absolutely terrified of swimming in open water.
okay.
And there are a couple of reasons as to why they're terrified or they're concerned. It's, I've never swam in the open water before, or I'm not familiar with this body of water, or the water's really dark, or what is living under the water, or I had a bad experience the last time. So all those emotions kind of well up. And for a lot of, I think, people, and maybe for just society in general, we're not very open to having people share their feelings or respond to feelings. And so those athletes almost suffer in silence in a way, because they think it's not normal to line up on the starting line and feel all of this anxiety. But it is. And I think knowing what is happening in your body, like, oh, wow, I feel like my heart is going to jump out of my chest and I feel my palms getting sweaty and I feel like I'm kind of slurring my words because I'm very nervous, or I'm feeling like I'm feeling. Instead of just acknowledging I'm feeling, I need to not feel this way. I need to not feel this way. It's information. So why am I feeling this way? And how can I feel differently in a way that makes me feel better?
So, are there strategies to talk yourself out of that kind of, because some of that anxiety is performance based because you want to
Sure.
perform well. And we
Yes.
know from some of the research that a certain amount of that is good. It gives us, the excitement and the
Yeah.
drive.
And
But
it's important.
right, but if it starts to build up to too much, how do you talk yourself back down from that?
I will typically ask the athlete if they've experienced that before, and then what did they do to maybe overcome it? And sometimes overcome is not necessarily the best word because it feels like it's a problem. Um, it's not a problem. I think it's just information. But like, what did you do to feel differently, to feel not as stressful, because or anxious? I mean, feeling anxious is normal. It's important, and maybe you've got, some a time-based goal on the line, and you've done all this work and it's the unknown. What am I going to do? How is this going to fare? Am I going to get a flat tire? Things like that. So I'll ask, well, what experience have you had in the past? How did you talk yourself down? Were there things that you did at the start line, or are there words that were very helpful, or was there a particular stretch? Did you have to remove yourself from, the mass of people? So trying to, it's a little eyes offy, but like, what how do you need to show up on the starting line as your best, which is different across the board, to do your best? And how do you regulate yourself to get there?
I think that's a brilliant approach, and here's why. Because instead of telling somebody, "Oh, you'll be fine, relax, you're ready, you're prepared," which is an external, you're
Sure.
giving people the confidence that comes from within and giving them the tools to think about it, which is much more powerful and sustainable,
Yeah.
for real progress and change. And you mentioned, just real quick, you mentioned, and as we kind of transition, you mentioned time-based goals. And I remember when we talked, I wrote it down because I thought, wow, this is cool about time-based goals and performance-based goals. So let's
Yes.
also talk about what that means, what the difference is, and How do you navigate those two worlds?
Yeah, time is hard and it's so important because time is it it's a data point and it is very well measured. So it's easy to write down a time-based goal, whether it's an actual finish time, whether it's your splits, it's a pace, it's your max deadlift, whatever it is. Numbers are numbers, they don't wiggle, they don't lie, and it's very binary. You either hit it or you don't. So when you hit it, it's like, yes. And then when you don't hit it, it can be this slippery slope of, oh my gosh, I did all that work for nothing. And that's not always the case. And the time-based goal or the numbers-based goal doesn't budge. There's no wiggle room, and it in most cases is so incredibly out of your control. And not having that control is such a challenge for athletes to wrap their mind around because that seems to be at the center of their universe. They want to hold that so closely, but it is the slipperiest of things. They can't hold it at all. So finding, and I'm also not saying that having that type of goal isn't important, because for a lot of us, that's part of the process. You are playing a numbers game in a lot of aspects and in a credible amount of sports, but it can't, in my opinion and personal experience, be the only thing that you use to define your own success and great experience. So I think giving people the opportunity to say, I want this time-based goal is great. And then the questions that I would ask of them that roll up into the time-based goal is, all right, then let's set goals around that time-based goal. What do you think you have to do to get to that goal? Like what are and there, the sub goals, and there are process goals that can be woven in there. Like
Mhm.
you might know you're never going to be able to train at a really high volume unless you get really great sleep. And sleep can't just be defined by the number of hours that you get a night. It is also your environment and how well rested you are and what your sleep, hygiene looks like and your wind down routine and all that great stuff. So you can weave in other little goals that help get you to the magic 8 number if you think 8 hours is the magic number that then rolls up to that helps get me to my time-based goal. And you can do that with everything, to be honest. You just really need to work with someone who can help tease that out of you.
It's so interesting because I had um, put down some questions that did not share with you yet. And one of them
That's
was
so exciting.
how important is sleep in this model of performance? And you just hit on that. You didn't even know I was going to ask you that.
It's it's so important.
But
And
I was thinking about the time-based goals and the performance-based goals, and I think that it's just really important to have conversation about, and I like the way you framed it, sleep hygiene. Because if we're really focused on our time-based goals, we have people really do want to focus on PRs,
yeah, of course.
right? How do you get there? Sleep is really an essential component of it.
Sleep is really essential. And I know that there's a lot of, you know, press and social media that, talks about how important recovery is. So if you do a really hard workout, you need to recover from that. You prep for a really big presentation that you're giving to 250 people, you're going to have some downtime after that. You're going to have some downtime after that. So you can go to work the next day super refreshed and nail the next presentation. Or so you can go to bed and the next day you're able to do the next workout. So I think recovery and that whole like self-care piece is dependent upon sleep. If you're not getting rest, your machine, your body, all your mechanics, all of the biology is not going to have an opportunity to have that downtime. You're not going to be as sharp. You're not going to be focusing really well on all the other things that need to get aligned in order for you to have a chance at meeting that time-based goal. So when you
It's
get
like
poor sleep,
I know, I feel like you're talking to me because before we turned on today to start recording, I was like, oh my gosh, I was so tired I couldn't run this morning. And you asked me, well, and I said, I swam last night. And you asked me, well, how late did you swim? I said, well, between 8 p.m. and 9 p.m., and then you're like, well, what did you eat? Did you eat afterwards? And so it's just coaches are so important because you give us clarity. In our minds, and maybe this goes back to sports psychology, we think we know what we're doing.
and sometimes we do.
But I don't know. It seems like it was all off. And my body was giving me the signals this morning, that it was
Yeah.
off. So that's interesting.
And the athletes are and I've been there, and I can be there. We get so caught up in the weeds of things that we sometimes don't necessarily give ourselves the breathing space to zoom out and look at a bigger picture, to
Yeah,
look
that's
at
good.
all right, I missed the goal, but you
Yeah.
know what? I showed up on the starting line. I was so refreshed. I was so excited to be there. I haven't felt that way in a really long time. I nailed my nutrition, or, I enjoyed the new scenery. Like there's so much that we quite honestly miss when we hyper focus on that number.
Number.
Um,
Hmm.
and a lot of what I learned isn't just through, talking with other athletes and going through school. Like I did it to myself. Like I learned the hard way that I need sleep and that I can't just focus on a number, and I need to listen to the feelings that are bubbling up, and I need to create a lot more depth and richness in my own goals. So I'm just almost reflecting back. These are some of the ways that worked for me. Like I invite you as my athlete, or you as, my mental, performance client, to give these tools a little bit of a spin, and then let's talk through how is this working or not for you. And um like guarantee there's going to be some semblance of success that might not be measured by a personal best.
Okay, so I wanted to ask you in the beginning when we were talking about the marathon, and you
Oh
said,
yeah.
oh, I have a story for that. Do you want to share that now? Does this feel like the right time?
Yeah, I think it's good. So my goal for the marathon, I know because I know I'm in this, it can't just be time-based. And I also need some semblance of time to keep me on some sort of track.
Okay.
Um, and there's a balance between, this is sometimes where I struggle, when to push and then when to kind of sit back. So if you sit back for too long,
That's another one
are
of my questions. You didn't even know it. Oh my
I
gosh,
love it.
you're like mind
Well,
reading my questions.
I cannot see your paper from here.
She do that.
And
Okay, let's go.
I
Let's go there.
so I haven't quite figured it out. And I think just like everything else, it ebbs and flows. So knowing when to push, but also appreciating where you are, and let's just say in a marathon, where you are in a marathon. If at mile 3, you're deciding, oh, here's where I push, I don't think that's a great strategy. Um, Depending on the course and how you're feeling and what your goals are, pushing at mile 3 is not the best idea. But then if you feel good enough, should I be pushing? Am
Right.
I am I faster or stronger than I thought I was? But then if I push, am I burning the matches sooner that I won't have enough left to be strong at the end? And that's kind of a gamble that we as athletes need to be a little bit more, I think, flexible with. So we just have to relax into, and I think there was a term I heard for it. I think it's called an open goal. So it's a little bit more fluid. It can change in the moment, but it still has the same theme. You just got to be open and curious to, I don't know, let's just see what happens here. Um, and sometimes that's too much of a risk for athletes.
Well, that's so interesting because it pushes you into a space that, okay, you've trained, you've you know the science behind the training, the number,
Yes.
right? Um, that has prepared you for that day. But then isn't that the magic of sports? Like you just never know until
You
you
just
show
never
up. You just
know.
never know until you show
Yeah.
up. Isn't that just like what it's kind of all about? That's the exciting part of it all. If it was so like contrived and everything was like set and it wouldn't be fun.
I know. And I think
I don't know. Does that make sense? It's like
it does.
it's almost like the magic of putting yourself in these challenging situations is kind of that kind of unknown, like you like this open goal, this open space that you're talking about. And I don't know how to
Yes.
describe it except to say, go out
But
and if
like,
you have never done it, go out and try it. You'll know what we're
but
talking about.
but if I knew for sure that I was going to hit it, that doesn't sound fun. Like
You know, it's
I'm not trying for it because I already know what's going to happen.
I
That sounds kind of boring.
well, I think it gets into sport. I think this is getting into sports psychology a little bit in terms of risk taking.
Yes.
Okay, we're all wired differently.
Yes.
I mean, even look at financial investing. Like some people are high risk takers, some people are
Yes.
very conservative. I think it's the same with like sports and life and just everything. Like, so I don't know. What I mean,
Well, and I think that can go back to maybe a mental rehearsal piece.
I was going to say the visualization part. Okay, let's go
Yes.
there.
And so I don't think that there folks will say, you already know this, imagery and visualization are sometimes used interchangeably.
But they're
Um,
different.
they are different.
Okay.
And and sometimes with athletes, I will just go with whatever word that they use because I know how they're defining it.
Hmm.
Most athletes wind up kind of playing in their head what their finish line is going to look like.
Okay.
But that's the end of your day. I think there's a lot of attention that needs to be paid to where could you potentially see a trouble spot that you want to work through in your mind in a safe space, and then see how you might need to employ that on race day.
Ooh, I like
And
this. I feel the
it's
psychology coming out. This is good.
yeah. And I think, and you also know this, if you practice something in your mind, whether whether it's visualization or whether it's imagery, whatever you want to call it, a mental rehearsal,
Okay.
you're putting the framework in your mind of doing the thing. And when it's time to actually do the thing in your body, you have some semblance of memory, and your body's like, I've been here before. And you haven't, but you have because you've practiced some of those things. It's like the golf swing. I think golf is a really great sport to tie to that. I
Okay.
cannot tell you how many times I have seen my father hold his imaginary golf club and take imaginary swings in his home. Or we're out, waiting to, we're in line for something and my dad is pretending to swing a golf club. He is
Hmm.
continuously practicing a movement without having a feel of the club, without being on the course, without being surrounded by his buddies, without, all of his own gear on, but he is practicing the physical movement. Now, while we can't always practice the physical movement of our sport, like running in place is not going to cut it, right? But you can do that in your mind and you can start to build that memory. So when you get to that point, when you get to hole 18, your body has already said, I've been here. I can do this. And you're going into it with a little bit more confidence, even though you haven't been there before.
So I hopefully this isn't too challenging of a question because I just remember I was taking a neuroscience class and they were talking about like the visualization, like it does something. It's not just seeing it, it's actually doing something to the brain. Do you know what it does?
Oh,
I know it's taking us into neuroscience, but I just want to
it is.
say, if you're interested and you're listening to this and you're interested in visualization, do some research on it. I don't know enough about it, but it actually does something physiological in the brain.
Yes.
And I wish I knew the science behind it. So I'm sorry. I apologize. I
So
don't, but
I know that if you want to really put together a solid imagery plan, program, script, or whatever, um, obviously you have to pick this situation
okay.
and you need to bring all of your senses to the party.
Hmm.
So you're going to want to have a script that you can either record for yourself, that you play back, or have someone record one for you. But ideally, you write out what you want your script to be. So if it's, a soccer athlete who has her cleats that are, tied together in a pretty bow, within the script, you can say, you can feel the ridges of the gray shoelaces as she unties, the cleats, the frayed edges. You can talk through that. You can talk about the smell of the vibrant green grass. You can talk about like the sounds that you might be hearing, whether it's people in the distance at the concession stand or it's the crowd off in the stands. So like pulling on all those senses and building it into a really rich script that is repeated over and over again for you is something that again really helps build that muscle memory and that confidence.
I've heard that a lot of like the top athletes, they all use visualization.
Yes.
Um, which is interesting because it's like this balance between wanting to kind of control what you can,
Yeah.
but recognizing that what we said before, like you really can't control everything in the arena.
That's right. And
And you don't want to either because I mean because that's where like the fun and the magic happens.
you don't, but then there's
I don't know, it's a
also,
little abstract, so I don't know if that makes
I
sense.
know it is, but like also through, so it kind of goes back to the question you asked about athletes, maybe, I don't think you use this word, but failing. There's so much to be learned in the fall. Reflection is such a great practice. And
Yeah, that's
I
a
don't think there's enough attention paid to it because we don't want to talk about it. We don't want to talk about the race we didn't finish. We don't want to talk about the reasons why. We don't want to talk about why we didn't start. You don't want to talk about any of those things. But there's a lot to be learned there, and you can find a little bit of self-compassion through that process. So like, okay, you didn't hit your time-based goal and the weather was awful. So there's a little bit of softness in, yeah, the weather did stink. I don't do my best in that type of weather. So now okay, it's a little bit the hurt is a little bit softer.
that's
Or
interesting.
maybe you got a flat tire and you don't know how to change a flat. Now, there is an actionable piece of information. For next time, you need to learn how to change a flat tire. And so you watch the YouTube video and you wind up changing a couple of flats on your own. Those are also process-based goals that might not have anything to do with your actual race, but throughout your training, it's something that you need to learn. It's a skill. You can build efficiency around it. You can change all the tires in the world. And that is an accomplishment that checks the box of I'm doing good things during my training.
Yeah, you gain competence and so which also leads to confidence.
Yes,
Yeah, that's
exactly.
interesting. And that's, I think, high achieving athletes or high achieving people in life, um, they have confidence in certain areas.
Yeah.
So maybe that's part of it. That's interesting. I had a question. It's a little bit like failure, but how do you help people break through like I can't do it?
I want to know why they think they can't do something.
Okay.
Um, and is it for lack of trying? Is there something that physically they cannot do? Or am I able to see from a coach standpoint, I know they can do it.
Okay.
They're just not believing in themselves. So I kind of want to know why. Like, why don't you think you can do this thing? And again, it's also a great piece of information. Okay, so you can't do this because of X. Let's see how we can get you more confident in doing X, more competent in doing X.
Hmm.
So I think it depends on the why they think they can't do it.
Yeah, it's just I would think with the your sports psychology background and being a mental performance coach and that you we all bring to the table different worldviews, you
Yeah.
know? And I guess the challenge is to work with people individually to kind of figure out like what's the mental block, you know?
Yeah,
Because we all, I think at the end of the day, if we all could just be super athletes, super confident, super successful, if we're striving for that, um, but sometimes we have these blocks.
yeah,
Like I've told myself I'm approaching 60. Well, you're too old to do that now. And then I'm like, well, no, I'm not. There's people
you're
20
not.
years older than me doing it,
Yes.
So we all have the well, I'll never be that fast. Okay. People say, or I never can do this. Or so how do you, or I can't even think of all the examples, but how do you help people through these mental blocks? Does it just, do you see that they have these like breakthroughs? Do you see those as a sports psychologist?
I think so. So sometimes people have breakthroughs. I think that what's tough is that the folks that typically come to me that have the mental blocks, they're really looking for the tip. Just give me the tip that I can use to fix this or to break through. And I try and equate it to their physical training or starting out a brand new career. You are not going to be at the top of the ladder when you first start your job right out of college, if you go to college or right out of high school. You're just not, unless you're incredibly lucky or you're the only person on the planet that can do that particular job, you're not going to be at the top.
You have to be
You have
reality based a bit.
Yes, you have to, there is work that has to be done in order
Hard
to get
work.
there.
Yeah,
Yes, absolutely. And it
hard work
takes time.
sometimes.
And
Yeah.
that's just like, if someone came to me and said, "Hey, I've never run a mile before in my life. I signed up, I'm going to do a marathon in 2 weeks." I would say, "Well, best of luck. I can't help. It's going to hurt and it's going to be a very long, literal road for you because it takes time. You need to build up your aerobic and muscular endurance. Like you need to work through all the things. There's so much. I don't have a magic, pill. I don't have the magic wand. It all takes work. And sometimes the some of the work that folks are not really interested in doing or they're frustrated that they have to do is trying to find something that works for them. So meditation might work for me, but it's not going to work for the next person. And it could work. I could say, I know that meditation is going to help you. But if they're not into it, that's not something I'm going to explore with them or even gently press that they try.
Hmm.
So
It,
there's kind of a balance between, again, meeting them where they're at, what could potentially work for them.
this is incredible because you're not going to believe the next question I had. I don't know how we did this. We did this on our first call together too. You ready for this one? I
I,
wrote,
I am.
you're not going to believe it. Do you find people show up ready to meet you where you are, or do you find people more searching and you guide them? That's what you're just saying. That was my question. Like, do you find, I'm just curious, or like, where do you find people when they come to you for mental performance?
Um,
They're searching or they're
this is
there and they're ready.
this is a great question. Most people are searching, and
Okay.
it feels like a last ditch effort to help them with their performance-based goal. So it is typically something that happens when they're in their training season, and that, in my opinion, isn't the best time to work with me. It's, to me, better if in your off season, when you're working on building your race schedule, or if you're, a high schooler or college athlete playing team sports, your preseason is the best time to work with me. That's
Hmm.
when you're learning drills, you're learning plays, you're working on strength training. Now, here's mental strength training. Let's put all those together. And then when you're in season, it's when you're applying all the things that you learned. You're not going
Hmm.
to be doing heavy lifting. In most cases, you're not going to be learning, brand new drills because that's just going to disrupt performance altogether. I am there for, a check-in, a boost, a debrief, whatever. But like working with me on a weekly basis when you're in season is not the best use of you as the athlete's time. So I think folks are coming in for, I've tried all the things. I have my race in 2 weeks, and I need to hit the podium, or I'm looking to qualify for states this weekend. I have my meet. And I have to gently say there are no guarantees, and you have to do some work. It's not just me telling you, you just need to do some box breathing on the start line and you're going to be great. And maybe in like the off chance, sometimes that does happen, but the chances of that are highly unlikely. It takes work and time.
That's interesting because in the beginning, there's almost like these crisis moments,
Yes.
and you can use psychology and strategies and tools to like talk people through these crisis moments. It takes me back to my master's degree. My master's is in school psychology, and
Oh, okay.
I had to do oral comps, and we had to role play administering a battery of assessments, like to the professor acted like they were the student, and then I would have to give all these assessments. We had to role play this, but
Yeah.
so we're in this room, but there's like a one way. There was like a panel of other professors and the director of the program all observing and watching, and I panicked.
Yeah,
And
I would
I
too.
and this is a good example, and I'm happy to be a little bit vulnerable here and share it because I ran out of the room. I had like a major anxiety attack with it, and I went over to the water fountain. I remember it. I haven't thought about this in a long time. And I remember the director of the program coming over, she's saying to me, are you okay? Do you think you can go back in there? Do you think you can do it? And I said, I just need to get some water and I'm going to go back in.
Yeah.
And I went back in and I did it. Now, she didn't tell me you can do it, you go back in there. She did what you said in the beginning. It was a crisis. It was a
Yep.
performance crisis. Anxiety tipped the bucket, but she just sat, she was just there. And I took the action to go back in. I think
Yeah.
that's powerful.
I- Sometimes, and
I
it's so
passed. I did
interesting.
pass, but I remember it to this day. It was very
Yeah.
anxiety provoking. Okay, go ahead.
Well, congratulations, because
Thank you.
that's a big thing to have to like pull yourself together and
And go
then go
back.
back in.
But these are there these crisis moments because we're talking about mental performance, we're talking about sports psychology. I'm giving you example in the academic arena.
Yeah.
Okay? They don't just happen in sports. They happen in
Right.
academics. They happen in professional lives when you got to get up there and give a presentation in front of however many people. Some people can't even give a presentation to a small group, let alone
Yeah,
a couple
right,
hundred
exactly.
people. So we have to have these tools to, first of all, preparation is key. It always is. Whatever you're putting yourself in, preparation is just so important, right?
And I think preparation is can be such an easy thing. There's a lot of prep work that the athlete can do, that the presenter can do, that the musician can do, like leading up to that day. Like you know, if you take a moment and just kind of zoom out of the day to day, you know what the overall expectation is going to be for whatever that performance is. So you know what equipment you need, what you have at your disposal. Like, you know, there's potentially going to be a laptop that might not work with your thumb drive. Like, so you
Right.
have to bring a backup thing. Like, there are things that you can build into your like pre-planning
Yes.
and then practice that.
And
So
practice it.
like,
So when if you do have an anxiety attack or it becomes a crisis or Christina, I don't know, I'm not sure, blah, 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 you can fall back on and tell yourself like, I'm ready. I'm prepared for this moment.
yes.
And it's tough though. If somebody comes in, I need this for next weekend.
Yep.
That's hard. But I think the key is sometimes, and here's another lesson. I did learn in through school and through life, procrastination sometimes I did my best work
Yeah.
under pressure. I don't know, maybe you can share with us what that looks like. But I think in certain situations you can't prepare. You have to prepare for success.
I think for some people, having a hard deadline, it's kind of like that time-based goal. They are so under the gun and put so much pressure on getting it done that they'll do their best. It's an above and beyond type of situation to make it happen. And I've seen that in so many different aspects. And what I've also seen is they might do the thing really well and reach that goal, but they were miserable the entire time getting there.
Oh yeah, right.
And then
You learn in that misery.
the adrenaline dump and crash afterwards,
Hmm.
you just pay such a high price for that
Yeah.
you're just kind of trashed. And so so this is interesting. The decision becomes, is this a win at all costs type of situation? Do I not care if the end justifies the means, or do I actually want to enjoy this experience as best I can? So,
Well, that's
I mean,
that's
you can do
interesting.
both,
It
but
it kind of depends on your why and your end game because if you're gonna do the first, you might not ever want to put yourself in that space again. If you find
yes,
some enjoyment in it, you're mostly more likely to show up again, and continue something in your life.
yes.
I am curious. There's something called the Myers-Briggs,
Oh, yeah.
okay? We all have these different kind of personality, you know, genetics or environment, nature, nurture, environment, genetics, all that kind of psychology stuff, but we're all kind of wired individually.
Yes.
When you're working with people in terms of mental performance, sports performance, do you kind of have to consider like the personality traits of the individual with some of the strategies and techniques, or do they just kind of work in a general sense for everybody?
It
Because we're all so
that's
different.
that's a great question.
Thank
I
you.
won't just take their personality and characteristics and attributes into the equation, I will also do my best to understand their whole self
Hmm.
in terms of, do you have a family? What's your home life like? What
Yeah.
kind of job do you have? Um, what's your, because in most cases it is sport related. What is your background in sports? How did you get into this particular sport? Like, what are the things, do you have hobbies? What are things that motivate you? So it's more of a comprehensive gathering of information so I can help understand or maybe empathize a little bit in terms of where they're coming from.
Hmm.
And what's challenging about that being like a really good requirement for me to work with someone is that when they come to me at crisis, there's no time for that. So if it's a, hey, nice to meet you, 2 weeks, I got this big thing, I don't have time to ask about
Luxury. What kind of
how many
person?
kids you have, right? Like,
Let's just get to
what
work.
what's your sleep schedule like? I don't have that opportunity. So yeah, it's
Well,
I love to hear everything.
what would you fall back on in this situation?
You know what? I want to know like what brings you here?
Okay.
How do you
Interesting.
think I can help?
How can I help? Okay. Here's a question. I can't believe we've almost been talking for
It's all good.
like an hour.
It's fun.
Okay. Age. What
Mm.
age ranges do you work with? And do you see, I'm just curious from like the researcher hat, like, do you see a difference in the techniques you use for mental performance based on what age range you're in? If you're in your teens or your 20s, 30s, older adults, how does it differ?
I've worked with athletes as young as 14.
Okay.
And I've worked with athletes as old as in their 60s.
Okay.
So it's a pretty big range, and they are all different sports as well. So while I am a runner and a triathlete, that seems to be what would be my bread and butter type of focus. I actually work with a lot of female lacrosse athletes in high school and college.
Wow.
Um, and so I've also worked with athletes in other sports and disciplines. 14 is actually a really tough age. So I wouldn't want to go any younger than 14, um, because oftentimes those younger athletes are coming to me because their parents want them to perform at a higher level, and the
Mm.
kid is just in it to have a good time, and they're feeling stressed because their parents are, just really stressing the importance of stats or teamwork or showing up, and it's already tough for a teenager, let alone a teenager with all those other dynamics.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, that's tough. Um, but for teenagers
And
in general, oh
Christina,
yeah,
and
yeah.
the physiology aspect of being in
Oh,
adolescence,
oh my gosh.
right?
Yes, exactly. Like,
Emotional regulation of emotions, and
yes,
that must,
absolutely.
okay.
Yeah, and you have that whole like parental dynamic, and then add a coach onto that. And then I'm coming in. It just it can be a lot. So yeah, it's definitely a struggle. But for those younger athletes, I absolutely want to know, how much time are you spending on social media? And they don't want to hear it. So I
Yeah.
try to find different ways to gather information on their utilization of technology. But then I also work with adults who spend just as much time, if not more, on social media, and they get into this whole comparison game. So for the kids, it's interrupting their sleep because they're using it as like a wind down practice before they go to bed.
Oh
For
my
the
God.
adults, they're using it as, a comparison, and they kind of get caught in a negative self-talk spiral. So I could go on and on about, technology, and I'm not immune to it. I love scrolling, sometimes I just zone out, and
I know.
there's a lot of funny stuff on the internet. So
But I think the challenge is, or maybe the path forward is everybody's going to meet you with different life experiences, different things going on in their life, different ages, different personality types.
Yep.
So I think that the key of a coach is to kind of to understand where, who is showing up and how to best move them forward,
Yes.
right? As a mental performance coach, um, what, and I know you can't just, give it all away for free, but this is a platform to help educate and motivate people. What can you tell people who feel like let's say let's say they're stuck, they want to start something.
Yeah.
How do you take that first step?
Well, I would ask myself, where do I think I'm stuck? You know,
Okay.
sometimes it could be me, and I'll use myself as a great example. I enjoy writing. I love to write. I will journal. I occasionally post stuff on Substack. Maybe I have like a little just a running list of notes on my phone with just a bunch of words or what have you. And I really want to have more of a regular writing practice.
Okay.
And I do not. And I could sit here and say, I have no idea why I can't break through this barrier. But I will tell you that's baloney because when I ask myself, what is your barrier? And it is, I do not prioritize my time well.
Mm,
I don't prioritize my time well enough to dedicate 15 to 20 minutes a day just to write a little bit. It could be anything. It could just be writing about the delicious cup of coffee I'm drinking, or it could be retelling a story, or it could be writing a poem. I don't do it. And I think it's important to me. So the next step for me is, and maybe this dips into procrastination, I work well from a list of things to do, a physical list, and a calendar. I need to put a task on my calendar to write, period, end of story,
okay.
and then check it off.
It's a visual reminder.
A visual reminder. And I need to keep it, this goes into goal setting, manageable. So if I said you need to write 7 days a week, that can feel very overwhelming by week 2 and you're struggling to make it happen. If I could say 2 to 4 times a week, just journal for 15 minutes, that's a little bit more flexible, a little bit more manageable. So I need to commit to a flexible goal that is small and attainable.
Yeah, we used to say when I launched this podcast about a year ago, I had a former classmate on, Dr. Marilyn Ward, and she used to always say, break things down into smaller steps. We used
Yes.
to say, you can't eat the whole elephant at once.
You can't eat the whole elephant.
So maybe that's
Exactly.
a strategy to leave our listeners with is to break things down, well, to write them down.
Yes.
And I like this as a strategy. Look at your calendars, right? I mean, I actually have three calendars. So it's
Me
like,
too. Me
I
too.
got the digital one, the paper one, I got a big whiteboard one. But look at your calendars, and does your calendar reflect where you would like your life to be?
Yeah.
If you want to be performing at a certain level, you want to meet these time-based goals, do you have space in your life to train hard, to train at the level that you need to train at to get there?
Outstanding question.
Right? If you want
Yeah.
to achieve a weight loss goal, you know, are you planning your meals? Are you, do you have time on your calendar to eat dinner? I know a
Right.
lot of times
Right.
I'm like running from one thing to the next, it's
Yeah.
not even, writing, right? Do you have it down on your calendar, the time that you're going to give yourself to write? So I think if we look at our calendars, we can learn a lot about our lives,
You're absolutely right. Yeah. You're absolutely right.
right?
Yeah.
You can see where you're spending your time. You can also see where you can find time, or you could carve out time, or you could let some things go. It's all that. I mean, what Christina and I are talking about is performance, human performance, whatever space it's in, academic, athletic, professional, personal life. If you're trying to achieve goals in your life, that are important to you, that your why is important to you, then you have to find a path forward to do that. And so I think that's just the key is to make space for it. Um, and then if you're feeling anxious and just you just don't feel good, like you said in the beginning, you start to be in tune with your emotions, work with somebody like Christina to give you strategies to work through anxiety and fear and all those things. I am learning from myself that a lot of those feelings come from us trying to control the future,
Yes.
not just staying present in the moment.
Yeah.
So
That,
maybe that's a strategy too.
yeah.
What do you think about
That,
all that? I'm going to give you an opportunity to kind of wrap it all up. In a lot of times in the beginning, my guests, we talk about how they even got to where they're at, and I didn't give you a chance to do that. So maybe you can, it's a little bit out of order, but maybe just tell us how you got here and what would you like to leave our listeners with?
I I realized that I love helping people.
Okay.
And it is such a basic um it's such a basic foundation that I then started to tease out more. So I first wanted to help myself, which is why I did a yoga certification. I wanted to learn more for myself. And then through that process, I was like, I want to share this with other people. And then the same thing happened with my run coaching certification. Oh, wow. I want to do better myself. I'm going to get an education. And oh, shoot, I want to pass this on to other people. I think this is really great. So it stemmed from help me first. And then, oh, I really want to extend this forward. And from a sports psychology standpoint, I I had a very big time-based goal in 2015, and it did not happen. And it wound up being one of the worst times of my life. And it took a long time for me to crawl out of that hole. And it feels so funny at times to say, I had a race and I didn't meet the goal, and everything else went in a really bad place. But when you put all of your eggs in that one particular basket, it can sour the rest of your plate,
Mm-hmm.
especially if your identity becomes that one particular goal. So I worked with a sports psychologist to help rationalize what happened, to help get me out of that bad spot, and to help equip me with a couple of tools that could help in the future. And I thought, this is so cool. I need to learn more for myself and realize this is a helping profession. It's not about me, it's about me helping you
Mm-hmm.
and you realizing your best, whatever and however you define that. And that was honestly the most just attractive thing to me. I want everyone to have a really great experience in life, not just sport. And we as individuals all hold the key to that. I just might help shine the flashlight on where the key is or what the key looks like or how shiny it is or where you might need to buff an edge. I'm there for that. And I have not just done the education, but then also applied it with other athletes and then to my own training and process. So I can say, I ran a marathon 2 days ago. I had a wonderful time. It was very hard, but I can do something really hard and have a great experience. And while the time on the clock wasn't the goal that I had kind of hoped and planned for, it was still really okay because I had all these other really great goals. And I don't ever remember having a super low moment during that entire race. And I can still say now, there isn't anything I would have done any differently, if I had to do it all over again. I'm just going to take all of that and apply it the next time around. So I'm here because I used to be where other people might find themselves.
I was just going to say that as you're sharing, and thank you for sharing that. And I'm kind of glad that we did this at the end because you just demonstrated why mental performance, sports performance, working with somebody like yourself, learning more about it, being more introspective, giving yourself some grace, having a growth mindset, why all that's so important? Because you
Yeah.
just showed that like 2015,
Rough.
now look where you are and look what you did with that. You
Yeah.
grew, you got certifications, you got education, you're helping other people, you just had a race, it had fun. I'm sure you're going to do another one because it was
I am.
enjoyable. And so you just demonstrated the growth mindset, which is really what this platform is all about. So I love that. Thank you for sharing that
Yeah.
with
Yeah.
everybody.
Thank you. Thanks for asking.
Well, okay. So I would love to keep going. I've gotten some feedback like, I think you need to keep your episodes a little shorter, but I love talking to people. I love
Sorry,
learning from,
friends.
yeah, I love learning from you all. And it's empowering. My son is doing the New York Marathon for the first time.
What a
Okay.
great race.
Yeah, and
That's exciting.
I think that you've shared a lot of things that I'm going to say, you need to listen to Christina and practice some visualization. Um, I think you learn a lot on your first one.
Yeah.
You just got to do it. You got to fumble a
Sometimes,
bit and learn, and then you carry that into the second one.
and what an awesome place to fumble. It's such a great, great, great race.
Yeah,
Ah,
I'm
New York is
excited
the
for him.
best.
Christina, thank you so much for coming on the PhD Journey Unplugged podcast. I really appreciate it. I had a little bit of background noise with my dog today. I'm
All
a
good.
little bit off my game today, and I appreciate you saying to me, it's okay. Let's just go for it. So thank you
Yeah.
for that today.
Yeah. Anytime. This was fun. Thank you.
All right, everybody. I'm going to sign off. As always, I'm grateful to educate and motivate on the PhD Journey Unplugged podcast. Let me ask you real quick. Are you taking new clients?
I am.
Okay,
Yes.
tell them how to reach you.
So my probably the best way to share my email is Cina, Cina at enflight.com. We're also on Instagram, Enflight Coaching. We're on Facebook as well, Enflight Coaching.
And let's spell ENFLYTE again. Go ahead.
ENFLYTE.
I have to tell you also, your website is really done nicely. I was
Hey,
on there studying and I was like, wow, it's really organized. It's very user friendly. So
great.
how do they get to your website again?
It's enflight.com.
Enflight.com. And you can find out, because there's another coach too,
Yes, Jonathan.
and
Yes.
that's your husband, right?
Yes, correct.
Okay. So there's two coaches on there and there's a lot of really good information on there. So,
Great. Thanks so much.
okay. Thank you, everybody. All right. Bye-bye.